Right. So we have come to the end of the management lesson, right? Which is the management process. You remember planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, right? So now it's about the controlling part that we are about to discuss. Okay, guys, just give me 1 second. Right. Starting from this one, so a lot of processes that we discussed. Remember the planning process, guys. That's a lagging, right? The video. Uh, why is that? Right. So we have talked about the planning processes, organization, right, and leading. Now, when it comes to this one, the process of controlling that you can, easily, recognize, right, which is only four steps that you have: establishment of the standards, right, measure the performance, and if there's any deviations, that will be identified, and then the take the corrective actions. Right. Give me 1 second, guys. Right, I'll come to the screen and we'll explain. Guys, if you can take this snapshot, right, take this set of steps. The process of controlling consists of four steps. First, you establish of standards, measure the performance, recognize if there's any deviations, and take the corrective actions, right? So that's the fourth step, easy to remember, not like something like planning process where you have so many steps. Just four steps you have: establishment of standards, and you will measure the performance and you recognize the deviations, if any, and will take the corrective actions, right? And right after that, I'll come to the screen and we'll explain you step by step what is each step describes. Right. Now let me come to the screen. Right. Okay. Now let's remember the fact that when you come to controlling is that it's all about you compare your actual results versus the plan. And budgeted results, right? So budgeted or expected results with the actuals one. And actual versus your expected results. So that is why then all you can have a control. Now you have studied that planning is the core step in come to the management. It's like the foundation because why you cannot have an organization step, right, without having a plan. Right? You cannot have a leading process without having organizing. And likewise, for you to execute the process of controlling, you need to make sure that you have the planning process, organizing, and leading. And like I said previously, where you compare about this plan or expected results or outcome with your actual outcome. So then in the planning process, you might have established your goals and objectives, right? So with that, at the end of, you can compare whether you actually achieved it or not, right? So maybe you'll end up with some, let's say some excess amount. Now, for example, you had a target of manufacturing 5,000 items of apparel. So that was your targets that you plan on your objectives and goals. Let's say one of your sales target, but you fortunately end up with 5,500 items. So where you compare with your plan and the actual one, yes, there's a surplus, and which is good. And the other way around, what happened is you end up with, let's say, 4,200 units. So where the deviation is 800 units and you are less than what we expected. And for that, you need to make sure that you find the reason why, when, what happened there. So then only you can make sure that you always achieve your plan things. Because what happened when you don't have a plan, controlling process is that you will just have your set of goals and objectives, and then there would not be any method that you actually identify whether you achieve it or not. Right? So then there would be just objectives and goals, right? There's no means of that because why? There's no process that you actually check whether you've been able to achieve it or not, right? Right now, this is the first step, as you can see, establishment of the standards. Yes, so you might end up with the standards. Because in order to measure the performance, you need to have a standard, right? Now, for example, let's say for a product, right? For products, so what are the set of standards that you can implement, right? In order to measure, okay, this number of units to be achieved, right? So this number of quality should be there. Or this is the, I think you might know about this normal loss when you come to accounting. There's a concept called normal loss. So where you allocate, right, some part of the your wastage that you recognize, you cannot control it. So likewise, maybe the establishment standard, okay, you might have a target about the maximum number of defects, right, that you can have, let's say 50 units, or let's say as a percentage, 1% is okay, right? So 1% defect product, or maybe, a couple of complaints would be fine, right? So number of complaints. So likewise, but make sure before you measure the performance, you try to establish the standards, right? So you establish the standards, and then you have the standards, then it's easy to measure the performance. Now, let's say you had a standard of the maximum number of defects product or rejected items, right, could be only 50 items, but you end up with like 62 items. So there are 12 items that you can see defect products where you had to reject, right? So maybe you had to rework on those, maybe you had to just destroy those items, right? Because you cannot present it to the market or to the your purchaser, because not in the required quantity, because that will have a disadvantage in terms of your reputation to the company, right? That is why. And likewise, you end up with those establishment of standards, then only there's a measure, right? So you measure the performance, you calculate the actuals and along with your standards. Right? And here's the deviations. Like you can see, there are 12 defect products, which is not accepted, right? Now 50 is fine, right? Because always there would be a, kind of defect products and mistakes, because none of us are perfect, or whether you can make sure 100% that you achieve it. But still at a minimum level that way you plan, right? And then yes, you recognize the deviation. Now you see that 12 items need rejected, which is excess of what we plan on. And then take corrective actions is that for these 12 items, so what is your action? So maybe what is the reason? So who, let's say, approved, or then who produced those things? So you can ask so many questions, right? So when did it happen, why it happened, how it happened, and what importance is that you do not remain the same issue or same error again and again. So you make sure the fact that you take the corrective actions to avoid those, instances in the future circumstances. Right? So then you can have a plan on this. Okay, how do you reduce this? So I end up with a target of 750, but I initially planned on 1,000. Why I could not achieve that? Okay. So maybe you analyze it. For that you'll be executing another plan, right? So then you make a plan for that. So then planning, organizing, leading, so this as a cycle, you might see it's continuing again and again, right? Okay. Good. So you are familiar with this. And the next thing that you need to know is that what are the techniques of when you come to the control, right? The controlling set of techniques. Now, in terms of the techniques, is that where you can see in the board as well, there are 3 techniques, which is the feed forward control, and you have the feedback control, and then the concurrent one, right? Now, again, coming back to this one. Now, the feed forward is something that prior to that thing happen, you try to take an action, right? Now, let's say something like this. Now, people are saying that there's need to have a, a lockdown or a curfew. So I would say that is something comes under feed forward control. Now, because, once you, put a lockdown or a curfew, which that feed forward control, that before it happens, you try to take a measure. Because now I saw that in one of a news site in Australia, in Melbourne, now they have found just one positive case there, but they have went for a complete lockdown. Now you can see, because it categorized under feed forward control, right? Before it happened, you try to identify it. Now, because maybe they are saying that no, we are never going for a lockdown, but we'll try to treat all the patients, right? All the cases. We'll identify, we'll track one by one. So that's something comes under feedback control. You try to take the actions once the incident is happened, right? So that comes under feed forward. Now, something like the concurrent is that, so whether that the process is happening, you try to, regularly do some check, right? Now, let's say you do some ongoing quality checks. So when the product is at the producing, so you try to check those. So concurrent. Right? So then you are not wait until it happens or prior to that. So you are just try to do that controlling process when the product is producing, if it is that. If it is a service, then you providing the service, you try to, get those, comes under the concurrent. So try to remember what are the 3 set of corrective actions in terms of the feed forward control and feedback control and concurrent one, and some sort of relevant examples if in case they ask about, right? So if in case about feed forward one or something like maintenance of the machines, prior to use that. That's something I would say feed forward control. Now let's say that you're having a taxi service company. So where, prior to every morning, you might check on the, the suitability or the required standard of those all vehicles. Okay? So if there's anything that you try to get to notice, and then you can take the action, right? Right. But something like feed forward, sorry, the feedback control is that, so one incident happened maybe, So, during let's say a couple of hires, so then you end up with some sort of a mechanical, let's say, issue that you have to face. So then you have to take correction action. So this is some under the feedback, right? Or maybe customer complain about there's no proper air condition, proper seats were not comfortable, right? So in that case, you try to, once the customer is complain, all you try to start investigation of what happened. So again, it's a feedback, right? So concurrent is that. So while on the process, you try to identify if there's anything. So you then and there you try to solve. Okay. Now you can see again there are three set of things I have included. The machine operators of ordinary printers, so they try to check the functionality of the machines properly, right, prior to the operations in every day. So this comes under, without any doubt, feed forward control, right? Feed forward. Now there could be instead that every time you cannot execute those feed forward, right? Depend on the nature of the business, depend on the requirement, you can think of what is the best suitable method, right? And the second one is that you can see in the normal situation, the bank manager of Pragati Bank getting up from his seat and observing the premises of the branch in the middle of daily operations. During this situation, if longer queues could be seen, he opens another counter or extra employees are being provided to assist. Then you do not wait until there's a complaint. Now, maybe there will be complaint saying, one of customers saying, I waited like 1 hour, right, to deposit my cash or withdraw my cash. And then he very disappointed about the service. Then now, because of these complaints, you try to work on, right? So that comes under feedback control. But here, because of this concurrent one. Why? Because then and there you assist it. You try to you're not wait until there's a complaint or once the process is finished. Prior to that, you take the actions, right? And third one, Surimal, who maintains private transport services, does not carry on maintenance services. When is it met with disaster? Therefore, he is subject to the balance of the blame. The passengers, he will have to face a great loss. So this is feed back control, where you only take the actions once the disaster, whatever the incident happened. We cannot recommend. Now, the best method is always concurrent, best method is always feed forward, but it has to be depend on the situation, depend on the nature of the business, right? So that's what we can tell about. But if we try to follow those methods, obviously you can make sure that you are in line with the whatever the things that you plan on, right? So then there would be no deviation, or maybe you end up with some good points where you have achieved more than expected, which is good, right? So you have achieved this is more than expected in your planning process. Correct. So one thing, guys, for you to tell about when you come to this controlling process, you need to know about the process of controlling, which consists of 4 steps, and plus the methods that you follow in terms of controlling techniques, right? Namely feed forward, feedback, and concurrent. And the next part is that you are very aware about the set of the benefits, right? So benefits part taker that you make sure you know well. You can see just this one. Right? So which is the importance of this controlling process, right? Ability to protect, right? The quality product, yes, you try to maintain the quality because you have a control, right? So then you always make sure that there are no defect products into the market. So where the quality of the product increases, then there's no argument that your reputation will increase, your profit will increase, your cost will reduce, right? So you can easily win the competition because you're providing the quality good or service. And ability to minimize the cost, yes, when there's no wastage, no defect products. So when there's no rework, obviously a lot of cost, and maybe could be sometimes legal actions as well against you if you end up with those things, right? So then you can avoid those legal expenses, so whatever charges that you have to pay. And ability to minimize faults. Yes, faults, defects, you try to minimize, or maybe zero, but sometimes it could not be practical, right? But you try to, make it in a less number of this. And able to match in accordance with the environmental changes. Yes, environment is changing always and always again. And when you see there are a lot of deviations, right? You see you are very far behind whatever you expected. So then you try to analyze the reasons. Then make a plus amount take up, not you try to identify why I end up with more than what I expected, but which is a good thing, but you try to identify the reason. So maybe that you can help or get that knowledge to increase your production. And so likewise, why you end up with, right? Less than what you expected, and then you try to identify. Maybe there are some environmental factors which affect, be internally, externally, right? For example, let's say why end up with less production, maybe one of a set of employees being exposed to COVID, and maybe there's a strike, right? So then you know what the action that you need to make. So always about the changes, maybe one of your key employee has been left from the organization, or maybe there's a shortage in the raw materials, so that's a reason, right? Or maybe is that a reason something controllable or uncontrollable, right? පාට මොනවාරි ඔයාගේ පැත්තෙන් මේ control කරන්න බැරි reason එකක් නිසාද production එක අඩු වෙන්නේ, right? So that's you can think about. So make sure the ability to match in accordance with the environmental changes, right? And again, ability to observe the progress of the organization and correct the faults. Yes, you can see the progress because you initially planned of 5,000 units, but still you end of the month you made only 3,500, which is a huge gap is there, but there's no progress, right? And if there's faults, yes, you will correct. And ability to the performance of the institute is carried out in an expected level. So always make sure that you achieve in the expected level. Now, when you say 5,000 units to be produced every month, so make sure you produce 500 units. And it is expected to have just 1% defect number of, which is I would say 5 units, and that manner, yes, you always make sure you end up with that. If not, maybe there's something wrong that you need to make sure what are the set of reasons and try to identify it, right? So that is, guys, the theoretical part that I can just quickly refresh on this part. And so today's plan, I have already shared the set of past papers. You can see. Let me show that to you. Right. Well, so coming to past papers that this is a question, right? Management to be tested. Question number 5, right? Which is part 2. Part 2 again. Animal question number 5 without any doubt, right? So without any doubt, question number 5 තමයි ඔයාගේ මෙතනින් check කරන්න, right? ඒ නිසා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම you can have an target on this question number 5, which is your part 2 එකේ first question එක මේකෙන් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම check කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් මම 2020 page එකට share කරොත් you can see the fact. You can see like 2 marks, 4, 8, 12 marks. 12 marks just from whatever stuff that you discussed, right? And again 2019, so likewise, you can see, right? I hope you have worked on this, right? Today I will take all the first papers, right? First set of papers. Okay. Right. So once I discuss all the first sections, which is all including MCQs and the fill in the blanks, I'll come to the second part questions, because there's something that you need to describe, you need to write, And then, especially in terms of the writing skills, how you write and front question. Right? Now, for your information, now when they say describe, explain, right? So always try to, maybe end up with try to a 3 or 4 sentence, right? Not just in the point form, right? So you need to make sure that you achieve the 2 marks. Correct? Good. Now, something like, I mean, for just an example, they're asking about what is an organization. So they are allocated like 2 marks, right? Maybe the definition that you can provide, and maybe one of example, right? Example of an organization. So maybe you end up with fully marks, which is 2 marks, right? Correct. Now, if you see the second one, explain the relationship between effectiveness and efficiency. You describe about efficiency, you describe about effectiveness, and you explain the relationship. Not just that you provide the definitions. You know, we are not getting full marks because they ask what is the relationship. So if you could not explain that, not getting a chance of full marks, right? Correct. With that, coming back to 2019 paper 1, right, which is the question number 19. Now, ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඔයාට first page එකේ question number 16, 17, 18 ගොඩක් වෙලාවට 30 බෙදෙනවා නේද? 30 question තියෙනවානේ MCQ. එතකොට first 15 ගොඩක් වෙලාවට first 12 grade 12 part. ඉන්සා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට question number 16 එකේ ඉඳලා මේ lesson එකේ questions තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right, so they're asking about following are some of the tasks of a manager, right? So we have discussed about the task of the manager and especially the managerial levels that we discussed, starting from top managers, and we have the mid level and the ground or the first line managers. And also there are set of skills between differs, right? And what they performs, right, could be different. Now, something like technical knowledge, when you come very less technical knowledge when you compare all the top managers, because they are not taking some process, right, some routine tasks when you come to the set of things. But in terms of taking decisions which might affect the entire organization. Now, a first line manager, middle level managers, they do not take decisions which affect the entire organization, right? So, which is a good thing when you come to the top level managers. Now, from the above, what is the option that contains only the key task of a top manager? Right? Now, something like this, I would say, right, for your information. Now, something like communication, every manager does that, right? It doesn't matter whether you are a top manager, you are a middle level or a first line. You always do communication. We'll be always doing some coordination part, right? Operating, not much related to the top managers, maybe operating part, first line and the middle level managers. Controlling also, done by all the level of managers. But something like strategic planning, which you can see impact the total organization, and maybe the policy development. You make a policy that you shift the factories from Sri Lanka to another country, which impact the total organization, right? And you take a decision, you are taking a strategic plan of introducing a new product or to diversify the product portfolio, which overall impact the organization, right? So in that manner, answer like C and F, I would say contains only the key task of the top management. ඒකෙන් කියන්නේ අනිත් task ඒගොල්ලෝ කරන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා. They also perform coordination, communication, controlling, operating, but above everything, they only take parts in the strategic planning and the policy development, right? So which is C and F, number 3. හරි මේක අතන famous question එකක්, right? Famous question එකක් හැම පාරකම වගේ අහන්න පුළුවන්. in management, doing the right thing, doing the right thing and doing things right කියන concept එක දන්නවා. එහෙනම් doing the right thing is the effectiveness, and doing the things right always efficiency. It's about you reduce the cost, efficiency, right? Efficiency මේ දෙකම එහෙනම් fulfill වෙන්න ඕනේ, not just effectiveness or not just efficiency. When you meet the both, so then only we can say you have achieved the objectives, right? And according to the Mintzberg role of classification, now you can see Henry Mintzberg came up with 10 managerial roles, including 3 sub roles. You can see the fact that the informational role and decisional role, right, and the interpersonal, right? So in that manner, make sure that you know well about this. Something like introducing a new project, right? So always that you try to do a change in the organization, some sort of innovative matter, right? So that's fall into the decisional role, right? And entrepreneur role, and the sub role of the decisional role of the manager, right? So there are like sub role of 10s, and that falls to 3 categories, right? So you can see the fact that by a manager falling into the entrepreneur, the role of entrepreneur, and the sub role of decisional role, right? Decisional role of the manager. While technical skills are highly essential for the, without any doubt, first line managers, right? First line managers. And what are the set of skills equally important? Now you might remember a chart like this that we talk about, right? One by one and the maybe data. Now you can see irrespective of the level, human skills, interpersonal skills human skills equally water want, right? Human skills. The process that formally assigning, there's a blank and again blank, right? What do you mean by about this delegation, right? Now you know that authority. When you come to authority, without any doubt, you are getting the responsibility as well, right? Because why? You are getting an authority of, let's say, you are the marketing manager of a company where you receive the authority of spending the budgeted, expenses for the marketing campaigns. So you have that authority. But from the same time, when the sales drop, let's say by 10%, that's a sales drop. After that, you are responsible as well, right? Now the process that formally assigning the responsibility and authority among employees, right? Responsibility and authority. Is the delegation of power. Avasya power, right? So then only he can execute all the decisions of an organization, right? Task-oriented leaders. Now you might remember the leaders that we divide on the behavior purposes, right? So how they give the decision. Now, most of the time, when you say task-oriented, job-oriented, leaders are more concerned. What do you think? There's a blank, right? And while this blank, oriented leaders are more concerned about employees, correct? So the task-oriented leaders are more concerned about, I would say, the work, or maybe the production, right? Production, you can use one of word. But if you are a human oriented leader. Employee oriented leaders are more concerned about employees. And task oriented leaders are more concerned about the work production and job. But all are correct answers. And while the employee oriented employees are more concerned about the employees, right? So they think of the human side of that, not just work always. The relationship between employee inputs and output is productivity, but what type of productivity? That's what right? So when we come to productivity, guys, we have like the material productivity, maybe have machinery productivity, and you have this labor productivity. Now, when you come to the inputs, employee inputs, or maybe could be number of employees. When you come to the input, could be number of employees as the input. Number of hours, the working hours, man hours, employee hours, right? Labor hours. Input. And that thing, output could be the number of units, right, that you produce. Is known as the what productivity? That is the labor productivity, right? Labor productivity. Now, as far as we concern this part 1 of 2019, marks, just this is for 2 marks, 2, right? So altogether 8 marks, right? Only from part 1, 8 marks allocate. Then after product බලමු 8 marks තියෙනවා. මෙතන part 2 එකේ තියෙනවා 4 marks, 8, right? 16 marks. 16 marks. Again, out of 200, 16 marks. Again, 8%. And they can nearly make it 10%. And blue paper came ලකුණු 8ක්. අපි මේ පොඩි වෙලාව කතා කරපු දේන් ඔයාට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Okay, good. After part 2 එකකට discuss කරලා මෙමු. I don't think it much thing to say. You can see the what is mean by the organizational structure. You see a organizational structure, right? So yeah, the authority and the words, right? So it's flow from top to bottom. Now you can see the relationship that the authority flows, right? So that's the structure, right? So maybe you can have a wide span of structure, right? Or maybe you have a short span of structure, right? Depending on the organization. And the span of control or the concept that you studied in the organization process explain span of control and state the extent of span of control of the marketing manager according to the above organization chart. Now you can see an organization chart here. They're asking you the marketing manager's span of control. Now guys, remember the fact that span of control is that the number of employees who directly reports to a manager, right? Not all who reports, but the direct, make immediate supervisors, right? That may be in some organization you might have wide span of control, which you have to there are a lot of reports to you, right? So your job is kind of complicated. Why? You need to make sure that you monitor, right? Or you control more number of employees. But as you can see, marketing manager, right? The assistant manager west, assistant manager central, assistant manager south. මේ තුන් දෙනාම report කරන්නේ කාටද? ගිල්ලා marketing manager, right? Marketing manager. Now අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් the span of control is 3 when you come to the marketing manager, right? 3. But never we take those marketing executives, right? Because the marketing executives are directly report කරන්නේ නැහැ marketing manager. They report through assistant manager, right? මේගොල්ලෝ මෙහෙම කියලා report කරන්නේ නැහැ, right? So they do like this. Okay. So that's what when you come to this one, right? So just the answer is 3, and you need to explain that there's only direct reports that we consider, right? යාගේ යටතේ ඉන්න ඔක්කොම නෙමෙයි. යාගේ යටතේ ඉන්න ඔක්කොම කිව්වොත් ඉන්නවා 6, right? But all the immediate reports that we something that we study today, explain what is mean by concurrent control and feedback control. Now something like open-ended question, they ask you to explain. දැන් මෙතන තවට පැහැදිලි 4 marks තියෙනවා මෙතනත්. එතකොට ඒක බෙදෙනවා 2 marks 2 marks, right? How you get the full marks for these 2 marks? Concurrent control you explain, you provide an example, so just 2 marks done. And feedback control you explain it and with an example. So it's always better and recommended, you write the examples as well, not just the explanation, not just the definitions. Always make sure, even they ask or not, just have a habit of writing an examples. Then there's no chance that you'll be losing the required marks. Right? Again, asking mention 4 reasons for research and development to be important for a business organization. Guys, actually that is not from this one, that is from the operational management lesson. But for your information, R&D is something, for some organization, it's a different, I would say, department, but maybe some of the organization that is just a unit when you come to a, let's say another, let's say production department, take a separate unit, take up with the R&D, right? So reasons importance, right? No issue with that, because if you are not trying to provide innovative products or new features to your existing product, you'll be end up with those competition that you will not be able to face with. And also in terms of to reduce cost, right? Maybe you will end up with some patents which provide you a long-term cash flow to the business, right? So there will be so many reasons why the R&D is important. Because why? How you can attract the customers or how you can keep your existing customer base is where you keep adding new features to the product. If you unable to do so, right, there's a chance that they will shift to the rest of the products, right? So make sure that you have this R&D part, right? And also to reduce the cost, maybe you see that it could be an expense. R&D look expense වෙන්න පුළුවන් research කරන්න, right? Maybe separate teams, separate expertises, right? But at the end of the those whatever the findings, that is going to definitely help you to increase the sales, reduce the cost, increase the profit, increase the customer base, or to face the competition with, right? So those are like the reasons that I can tell about this part. Okay, coming to 2018, right? That kind of the question number 16. Now done question number 16 කිව්වොත් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම 15 වෙනකම්ම එහෙනම් ඒ අවුරුද්ද අහලා තිනවා all the questions, right, from the grade 12 stuff, and just from the question number 16 they have started checking you the grade 13 parts, right? Question number 16. Now we'll see. Select the most correct statement relevant to management and the functions of management process. Management is a process of implementing a specific solution to a problem. Decision making process, right? Specific solution. That's no specific solution, right? When you come to management, so you can. It's about that you do a process, right? Planning, organizing, leading, controlling, effectiveness, efficiency, goals and objectives, resource utilization, everything should be in line, right? So then only you can say you manage those stuff there. So no chance that we can take this. Planning is a process of implementing steps to achieve goals and objectives of a firm. just to correct partially, right? To some extent correct, but they do not mention about, right? Whether you allocate, I mean, like, sorry, whether you use the resource in effective and efficiency manner, right? But maybe you achieve the goals. Maybe there's no time frame for that, right? Maybe you achieve the goal, but you have spent so much of resources on that, which is not good. So in that manner, third one is organizing. It's a process of allocating resources. It not just allocating, guys, right? You might remember, not just allocating the resources, right? You are providing the authority. You will be the work that you will be allocating, right? In some way, partial correct answers. Leading is a process of influencing, not just influencing. The leading process එක තුනක් තියෙනවා, right? Which is leadership, motivation and communication. The influencing කියලා කියන්නේ ඔතන motivation. එහෙනම් leading කියලා කියන්නේ motivation විතරක් නෙමෙයි, not just motivation. So then you have the leadership and the communication. එහෙනම් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම option number 5 තමයි, but we go through. Controlling is a process of correcting the deviations between the plan and actual outcomes to achieve goals. Yes, the controlling that you make sure, right? You are in line or you are with the track or track or initially plan. If not, that you identify those, right, deviations. Right, 2 marks. 2018, question number 5. Question number 17. The process, right? The decision making process. මේක නම් ඇත්තටම මැනේජ්මන්ට් දැනගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මේකට ආන්සර් එකක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්. examples දීලා තියෙන්නේ, right? මම හිතන්නේ මේක grade 6 වගේ ළමයට දුන්නත් ආන්සර් එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? මොනවද කියන්නේ? The first is that you identify the problem, right? Then you create or you list down all the alternative solution and you evaluate those one by one. You select the best, you implementing that decision. It's a process that you familiar. But what are the example? Now we'll see. 2018 question number 70. Now first you need to see what's the problem. Establishing a service promotion division. A problem it's feel like a solution, right, that you provide, right? Maybe the decision. Promoting after sales service. A problem right? Calling suggestion from different parties, something like this. Being unable to satisfy consumer wants. Consumer wants satisfy unable, yes, it's a problem. Without any doubt, A for 4 should be there. Remove 1, 5 and 2. Then බලන්න මෙතන common ඒවා මොනවාද? common ඒවා නැහැ නේද? A4 වලින් පස්සේ අපිට B එකක් තව බැලුවා නම් හරි answer එක ගන්න තිබුණා. right? B විතරයි බලන්නේ නම් identify alternative solutions. ඉතින් බලන්න ඕනේ මේ you are in a position to unable to meet the consumer wants. What's the reason? Or maybe what is one of a solution that you can provide? Without any doubt, calling suggestion from different parties. Yes, because why? You need to list down alternatives. It's always better to have a plan B. ඕනම issue එකකට problem එකකට you have so many solutions, potential alternatives ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. දැන් example එකක් විදිහට අපි හිතමු distribution vehicles මදි. එහෙනම් එකම solution එක purchase කරන්න නෙමෙයි, purchase කරන්න පුළුවන්, lease කරන්න පුළුවන්, rent කරන්න පුළුවන්, hire කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? ඊට පස්සේ මේක roster basis යවන්න පුළුවන්. දවල්ට එක employee set එකක්, so same vehicle you use 24 hours. So that's why so many options is there. So that is why you need to make suggestions, right? So many suggestions, right? So think from the traditional boundaries and see, right? So then different parties. And in our number 3, right? C for 5 should be there. You evaluate the alternatives. Yes, you analyze the given suggestions one by one, right? What are the advantages and disadvantages of taking those? And you can see E for 1 and implementing the best decision without any doubt. You can see establishing the service promotion divisions. That is your, solution for that your thing. Moving to the question number 8. Now, something that you need to be very careful why you cannot suggest the example like the question number 17 එකේ ඔයාට options දෙකක් දැනගත්ත කියන answer එක තියෙනවා. But something like this you need to be very careful because they are asking the number of weaknesses, right? How many weaknesses there are. Now exactly knowing the figure. හරි අපි බලමු මොනවද කියලා for this part. Right. According to the statement presented by a manager at an exit interview, the main reason caused him to resign from the firm is the mental stress due to inadequate salary, right? Supervising a large number of employees or a span of control වැඩි වෙනවා, right? Like stress එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Receiving commands, right, simultaneously from various parties. එහෙනම් මෙතන මොකද්ද violate වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි, right? The unity of command, the concept of unity of command, right? You should only receive, all the orders or advice or instruction only by one manager. So if in case you receive from various parties, that's going to be a really difficult. Lack of freedom to take decisions and disbanding of formal authority, right? Maybe informals වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන ඔයගේ formal authority එක කවුරුත් work කරන්නේ නැහැ, right? Now we'll see number of things that you need to see. The first thing first is that supervising large number of employees, right? මේක තමයි අහලා තියෙන්නේ මේ weaknesses to the organizing. ඒ කියන්නේ organizing process එකේ තියෙන ඒවා විතරයි violate වෙලා තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. Now, without any doubt, large number of employees තියෙනවා. එක reason එක, right? And receiving commands from various managers at same part, same movement. Number 2, lack of freedom to take decisions, right? Lack of freedom to take decisions. කිව්වොත් ඔයාලට ගන්න පුළුවන් something like මේක ගොඩක් centralized වෙන්න ඕනේ නම්. ඔයා දන්නා what is the difference between centralized and decentralized, right? Is the fact that you have these set of things. I would say, when it is centralized, all the decisions are taken by the top managers because you don't have a chance. You can freedom නැනේ අහන හැම එකක්ම, right? You don't have your own freedom to make a decision. You will always ask from your higher level, right? Number 3. And disbanding the formal authority because of strong formal authority එකක් නැති තරම්, right? මේක ඔක්කොම වෙන ඇතුලෙන් informal විදියට. එහෙනම් මෙන්න number 4. But something like, remember, you cannot consider inadequate salary, right? මේක ගොඩක් වෙලාවට organizing principle එකක් කියලා අපිට correctly we cannot identify. It's a number of weaknesses, I would say. Number 4, right? Which is option number 4, right? So මේ වගේ question ගොඩක් tricky. Why? Exactly මොකට identify කරගන්න වෙනවා, right? So that's something we need to be careful. Right, with that, coming to the part, the fill in the blanks one. Management is fulfilling of organization objectives effectively and efficiently within dynamic business. නේද? අපි මේක lesson number 1 එකෙත් කතා කරලා තියෙනවා and also this lesson. So it's always keep changing. What remains same, what constant is the change. The වෙනස් ඒ කියන්නේ මොකක්ද නියත වන්න වෙනස් වීම. The constant is change, you can see, right? So dynamic business environment is the dynamic business environment. Directing by organizational, yes, without any doubt, organizational resource, right? Organizational resources, you need to make sure that you use organizational resource. 37B, while authority is a legal power based on what? Based on the post, right? And the position based on the post. Post legitimate power, right? Legitimate power. And the expert power is based on the person, right? You are expert on some field because of that personal characteristic that you are getting, right? Even though you are not receiving it as a formal, not formal but something like what happened to those these days, right? There was this COVID thing, the Dhammika panic, right? Which was failed later. And a short time period එකේදී යාට කවුරුහරි යාව consider කරලා expert කෙනෙක් කියලා. right? මේම මේකක් හදනවා. හරි ඒක ඇත්තද බොරුද කියන එක වෙනම story එකක්. But you know, expert power, right? Based on this one. So because of this, right? You are become an expert on the field and then you are getting. So යාට කොයින්වත් යාට formally authority එකක් ලැබිලා නැහැ, right? To conduct anything. Yes. But authority is something we see from the post or the position, I would say. Question number 47, right? 47. You got the right 4 reasons why a control process is important to the firm. මේක අපි දැන් කතා කරපු දෙයක් ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි. Right, importance ගැන we mention the fact that what are those set of importance, right? Right, then මේ වගේ question you can write as it is. දීලා තියෙන විදියම තමයි, you don't have to have any other creation method, right? So just as it is, you can check the fact. To protect the quality, minimize the cost, right? Minimize faults or make it to 0, right? So we can write one of 4 answers. Or maybe to evaluate the progress, right? Something like this, you can check on, right? And changing according to the environmental changes, right? Something like that, you can check, right? People duck diagram, guys, just write one of those as your answer. Right, අපි එමු 2018 part 2 එකටත් 2018 part 2. I hope that you remember this definition. The management is an art of getting work done through others. Mary Parker Follett end up with this one. Explain this definition, right? Then the method how the make a cubic, but you can always say that this being expressed or stated by the Mary Parker Follett, and what is it means. Now, this one, now, how you work, right, through others. You need to get the work done through others. So if you are not doing good, because it's explain the fact that it's a teamwork first of all, right? So they need to have to work with other people, but you need to make sure that effectiveness and efficiency also achieved, right? And this one, you can say the fact that it's a teamwork. You are not in a situation you conduct all the functions by yourself as a manager. Then you need to make sure that you allocate it, which happens in the organizing process, and which you make sure that you get those set of things, right? And that is why we say it's art of getting work done to other people. And also at the controlling process, you make sure that you achieve those. And you provide the standards, let's say for the HR department set of standards, marketing department set of standards, production department set of standards, and then you think of the fact that whether you will achieve it, right? So as a manager, what you try to do, you overlook, right, what they are doing, and then and there you help, right? So that's what it's about. So the art of getting work done through others, right? Correct. Now just share what's included in your marking scheme. Now you can see, right, with underlined words 2 marks. එහෙනම් කොහොම හරි මෙන්න මේ underline word to words ටික තියෙන්න ඕනේ. මොනවද? දැන් මේ වගේ answer එකක් open ended question එකක් නේ. මේකෙන් expect කරන්න බෑ හැමෝම same answer එක ලියයි කියලා. Right? මේක අර open ended question එකක්. You have a freedom to write, explain. Right? Student A's explanation could be different from student B, right? Same, but they asking you when there's underline words, something like managers have to work down through others. Then අපි ඉස්සරලා කතා කරේ මම කව අනිත්‍යයෙන් ආට වැඩ allocate කරනවා, right? In our organizing process එකේ වගේ නේද, you allocate the work, right? I can work done through other people, have to work, and also effectiveness that depend on his style, right? So in a employee oriented අනිත් පැත්තෙන් task oriented, or sorry, whatever the human employee oriented task oriented. But what remains same is this is a teamwork, and then you will be allocating and you get the work done, right? So that's what. So make sure the key words are mentioned in your explanation. It doesn't matter what you explain, but among those set of words, those key words should be there. That's what they consider. Right. With that, make up an open-ended question. If you are a member of the committee appointed to organize the Commerce Day of your school, which was held last week, describe the management function. That මේ වගේ question එකක I advise you try to understand the question first. මුලින්ම ප්‍රශ්නේ තේරුම් ගන්න. ඒ වගේම මේකට 4 marks allocate කරලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි නෑ 4 marks කියන්නේ මෙතන මේකට 2 marks සහ මේකට 2 marks විතරයි. But try to identify the question. Describe the management functions. එහෙනම් මතක් කරගන්න ඕනේ management functions මොනවාද? 4 function is there. 4 examples from the activity that you perform. You need to you are in the organizing committee, you need to organize a commerce day. Commerce day එකක් organize කරද්දී you need to follow management function. කොහොමද commerce day එක plan කරන්නේ? කොහොමද commerce day එක organize කරන්නේ? කොහොමද ඒකට lead කරන්නේ? කොහොමද ඒක control කරන්නේ? Right? ඒ නිසා මේ 4 functions ලියවෙන්න ඕනේ with examples. නැත්තම් මේක මේ පැරාග්‍රාෆ් එකක් වගේ රචනාවක් වගේ ලියලා ෆ්‍රික්ෂන් එක හරියන්නේ නැහැ. Right? එහෙනම් මේ බලන්න some of the tasks I'll extracted from the your marking scheme. මෙච්චරම අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේක ගොඩක් දේවල් දාලා තිනවා. You had to only write one part. Right. So in the planning process, what you try to do, right? Deciding the date. There's a time frame, right? And you need to make all the planning stuff. Maybe how you deciding on the sponsors, deciding the guest, and invite these schools. You made a plan, right? Now organizing order matakai. It's about allocation work, giving the authority, right? A resource. You need to give the resources, right? Maybe the funds that you raised, and maybe you are putting some subcommittees, right? Something related to treasurer, maybe for the refreshment committee, right? So likewise, and you allocate team, you take care of the, let's say, certificate printing, or maybe the refreshments, you think about inviting the rest of the schools, or maybe what are the items that you're going to be present, right? And all the things. And lead is that as an organized committee, you need or maybe you appoint leaders, right, for each committee, and create awareness about the activities, because every student in the section need to be aware that there's an event that is happening, right? Which is one of, I would say, communication. And then you also can take part in everything. And you motivate students to participate, right? Because the participation is key, important. Even if your own school students not participating for that, maybe that would be a problem, right? So you motivate everyone to participate that. And at the end of the day, maybe you're controlling ensuring items according to the plan, getting a feedback, or maybe you can feedback form, right? You can provide to them, or you can get the feedback from the staff, right? Or likewise, or maybe that part you can use for the next event, or the next the right of the following year. Once you organize, maybe you can take some of the things but went wrong, right? So those are some possible 4 functions, and with the examples, I would say, when you come to the management function, right? So based on what you first, you need to plan. Now you will realize something like, without planning, organizing is, right, impossible. Without organizing, there would be only leading. Without leading, or without even planning, organizing, leading, there would not be anything called controlling. Right. With that, the next set of things they are asking. State four abilities included in the conceptual skills of a manager, right? මතන මීට කලනු තාල්තිප conceptual skills ගැන අහලා තිබුණා නේද? questionnaire දැන් බලන්න එකම දේ කොහොමද repeat වෙන්නේ කියලා example එකක් විදියට 2019 දැන් බලන්න 2019 paper එකේ අහලා තිබුණා MCQ එකක් විදියට තමයි එතන අහලා තිබුණේ අපි මුලින්ම කරපු question එක right නේද key task දැන් එතන conceptual skill තමයි check කරලා තිබ්බේ මොකද අපි දන්නා top managers ට ඕනේ conceptual skill හැබැයි ඒකම වෙනත් විදියකින් අහලා තිනවා 2018 වලට ආවට පස්සේ ඒ අහලා තියෙන conceptual skills but state four abilities right වෙන conceptual skills වල මොනවද තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඒත් කෙලින්ම එතන ලියන්න පුළුවන් policy development strategic planning නේද එතන තිබ්බ දෙකම අපිට එහෙමම ගන්න පුළුවන් right now we'll see what set of things you can end up with identify the internal and external environment environmental analysis එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කිව්වා අතන how you strategically think you need to be aware about what's happening inside and outside of the organization analysis set of skills identify the problems and solve them visionary creative thinking decision making skills right policy development those set of things that we discussed right මේ ඔක්කොම conceptual skill that is why when you go higher in the ladder of the positions it does not require කවුරුත් අහන්නේ වගේ මේ standard එකක් right මම කියන්නේ අපි හිතමු accountant පැත්තේ accounting standard එකක අහන්නේ right but how you try to take those decisions right so strategically how you make the things සමහරවිට maybe let's say one of a CEO of a company doesn't know what's happening in the operation and flow right so that ඒක සමහරට යාගේ වැඩකුත් නැහැ but think about this conceptually how they can take the decisions නිසා එන්නේ technical skills අවශ්‍ය නැති වෙනවා conceptual skills තමයි required the most right part B එතන මෙතන ඔයාලට ලැබෙනවා 2 marks හැබෙන්නේ කොහමද 0.5 into 4 right එකක් ලියුවොත් ඒකට ඔයාලට 0.5 marks තමයි හම්බෙන්නේ something like you have to just state. මෙයා describe කරන්න යන අවශ්‍ය නැහැ, right? So otherwise it will consume your time. Just state the point form එකෙන් one by one ලියන්න තියෙන්නේ, right? එහෙනම් 0.5 into 4, 2 marks that will be received, right? Moving to the next one. Describe the task belong to two sub roles. නේද? අපි මතක ගන්න managerial roles 10ක් ගැන කතා කරා. Right? The leader and the entrepreneur in Henry Mintzberg management roles. Right? ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි. එහෙනම් බලන්න දැන් managerial roles ගැන ඊට කලින් අහලා තිබුණා. බලන්න 2019 වල මම හිතන්නේ fill in the blanks තිබුණා. දැක්කනේ fill in the blanks එකේ අනිත් පැත්තට එද්දි yes, right? fill in the blanks. ඒ නිසා මේ අහන දේවල් කොහේ හරි අහනවා. ඒක තමයි point එක. ඒක part 2 එකේද ඒක writing question එකක්ද fill in the blanks the match කරන්නද short answer the MCQ ද right whatever the format අහන දේ අහනවා right so you can see that's why by doing an past paper analysis you can check right set of things will be repeatedly checked හරි අපි ඒකත් බලමු leader and entrepreneur right leader and entrepreneur most of the things මේ දෙකම comes under the decisional roles කියන එක අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් leader right comes under the interpersonal role and entrepreneur decisional part right හරි නේද leader කිව්වොත් අපි leadership ගැනත් leader ගැන කතා කරලා තියෙනවා right ඒ නිසා එතනත් අපිට යම්කිසි knowledge එකක් තියෙනවා you always motivating encouraging and for your subordinates to achieve the goals and then as an entrepreneur changing the internal environment organization to the changes in the environment introducing new projects changing the organizational structure right so you change the organizational structure or you find the new project part mata me කලින් අපි discuss කරා new project make include the new project could include new product right new product වෙන්න පුළුවන් or new market or new method new production process right you try to do a change right so whatever the change that will have a good impact to the business or maybe you change the structure right correct right next question මොනවද අහන්නේ මෙන්න මේකත් ටිකක් open ended question එකක් right පොඩ්ඩක් හිතලා ලියන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා නේද a business consultancy firm has proposed a new solar power system and a production automation system මේකත් අර decision making process එකේම තමයි අහලා තියෙන්නේ right a business consulting firm has proposed a new solar power system and a production automation system to minimize the production cost. හරි. එහෙනම් මෙන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ problem එකක් තිබිලා තියෙනවා. කොහොම හරි sorry ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ idea එකක් තියෙන මේ cost එක minimize කරන්න. ඒකට options දෙකක් ගෙනල්ලා තියෙනවා. එකක් තමයි solar power එකක් ගේන්නද නැත්නම් production automation. You expect to select one of the alternatives. මේ දෙකෙන් එකයිනේ කරන්න පුළුවන්. Describe 4 criteria that can be used to evaluate these alternatives. Right? එහෙනම් one by one you need to make sure that how you do compare. Right? How do you compare that? Correct. මම හිතන්නේ ඔයාලට මම ඒක නැවතත් පෙන්නුවොතින් if you could remember the decision making process, right? There's a 7-step model is there. මෙන්න මෙතන පැහැදිලිව කියනවා right? When you select the best alternative, you need to make sure that you go through some of the things. The legality, the cost, right? Suitability, right? Environment friendliness වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Accepted by every parties. There are some set of things that you need to make sure that you think about, right? Then only you can end up with the best one. එහෙනම් ඒක තමයි මෙතන ඒගොල්ලෝ අහලා තියෙන්නේ මේ options දෙක how do you check with that. So what are the concept that you need to check one by one and do evaluate. එහෙනම් ඔයාලට evaluate කරන්න you need to have criterias, right? Evaluate කරන්න criterias තියෙන්න ඕනේ. So this is the set of criterias. මේ බලමු correct. Cost, yes, you need to think about the cost. එහෙනම් ඔයාලට පුළුවන් comparison of cost කරන්න බැරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ එක පැත්තකින් දාගමු. You have this solar power system, right? Solar power system. අනිත් එක production automation එක. අපි මොනවා හරි production එක automate කරන්න. Right? Production automation. Production automation. And cost of the solar project. Solar project එකේ cost එක මොනවාද? Automation එකට යන cost එක. Right? Suitability. Suitability to the task. මේ කොච්චර suitable වෙයිද? Solar system එකේ කොච්චර how much of the cost would be reduced, right? Automation. Practical possibility, make possible with something like solar power, guys. For some countries it doesn't work. දැන් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට හැම ඉස්සෙම වහිනවා නම් නැත්තම් දැන් වෙන රට වහින මොන හරි හැම ඉස්සෙම වින්ටර් එකක් වගේ නම් තියෙන්නේ ඒක වර්ක් අවුට් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි දැන් සාමාන්‍ය ලංකාව වගේ රටක් ගත්තාම most of the time එක්කෝ නේද අර අපිට sunny weather එකක් කොහොමද තියෙනවා right 365 days මේ ලොකු variance එකක් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා බලන්න පුළුවන් ඒ location එක අනුව මොනවාද හැමතිස්සෙම solar project එක යන්න පුළුවන් ද කියන්නේ right. So suitability or the practicability. Relative importance. Which one is more important to the business, right? Automation කරනවාද solar power. Durability of the project. Solar power එක අවුරුදු කීයක් තියනවාද? Automation එක අවුරුදු කීයක් තියනවාද? සමහරට solar power එක maybe 5 years. එතෙන් ඊට පස්සේ ආපහු කරන්න. But if you made automation maybe for lifetime, right? So long period of time. Technological feasibility. ඒක දැන් අපිටම automation කරන්න ගියොත් required set of employees ඉන්නවද required machines තියනවද things like that, right? Technological feasibility. Acceptance, accepted by the different parties. මේක production manager එක guide මේකට right? General manager එකකයිද මේක finance එකේ මේකට approvals දෙයිද budget, right? Money approved and everything. So those are the set of මේකට අපි කියන bottlenecks කියලා filters. මෙතන filter වෙන අර alternatives අපි buy නැතුව list down කරානේ whatever the available alternatives, and this is a bottleneck where it is sorted out, right? එහෙනම් මේක එකින් එක ටික් කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. එතනින් තමයි best option එකට the best one you select as your decision, right? So set of things that you need to check on. Right, I hope you are clear about that. Shall we come to the last question of 2018 paper? Name the steps in the organizing and briefly describe any three of them. So question එක මුලින්ම try to understand well. Steps of organizing are අනිවාර්යෙන්ම list down කරන්න වෙනවා ඔක්කොම. හැබැයි ඒක එතනින් තුනක් විතරයි පාට describe කරන්න වෙන්නේ. ඔක්කොම describe කරන්න අවශ්‍ය නැත, right? So you know the process, right? When you come to the organizing process, step of organizing. First, you identify the task, your division of work, departmentalization, delegation of authority. Then බලන්න පැහැදිලිව කියන for naming at least 4, right? බලන්න එතන කොහොමද answers දීලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. For naming at least 4, right? එතනට 1 mark විතරයි, right? එතනින් ඔයාගේ බලන්න මුළු steps ටික අහලා තිබුණානේ question එක බලන්න මුළු ඔක්කොම steps ඒගොල්ලෝ expect කරන්නේත් නැහැ. මොනවාරි steps 4ක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒකට දෙන 1 mark. දැන් බලන්න මෙතන ඔයා වැරදිලාවත් steps ටික හරියට ලියලා එනවා, right? හැබැයි ඔයා explain කරන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම වුණා නම් ඔයාට just 1 mark, right? බලන්න අපරාධයක් ඒක, right? එහෙනම් 3 marks ම allocate කරලා දෙන්න for explanation, 3 making ඕනම තුනක් explain කරන එකට. Correct? So maybe departmentalization easily order pulan explain karana the basis of departmentalization, geographical basis, product basis, and the process basis. So you know, couple of, and maybe allocation of resource you can say about, division of work you can say about, authority and responsibility, what are the standards of works. Thinking on explain karana kena wage me paragraph expect karana. Maybe 2-3 sentences for each, right? Maybe with the example better, right? So then you can get the full mark easily 4 marks guaranteed. Correct, right. අපි පොඩක් බලමු 2018 කොහොමද questions අහලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. 2018 අහලා තියෙනවා 1 2 3 MCQ 6 marks, then 1 fill in the blanks, එතකොට 8, short answers 10. එතන 10ක් තියෙනවා ලකුණු. ඊට පස්සේ 8 16, right? 26 marks බලන්න 2018 26 marks තියෙනවා management වලින්. එතකොට 26 mark out of 200 ඒ කියන්නේ 100ට නම් එතකොට 13ක් වගේ නේද? 113ක percentage එක. ඒ කියන්නේ ලකුණු 100න් 13ක් management. Right? See how easily you can grab the marks. In some syllabus එක ගැන නෙමෙයි concern වෙන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද marks allocation එක. Now වැඩිපුර marks හම්බෙන්නේ මොන lessons ද? Go through those well, right? එහෙනම් management වගේ lesson එකේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම full marks ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම more than 10% එන්න පුළුවන්, right? paper එකෙන් 10% represent. Correct. Will that අපි 2017 උත් fully discuss කරමු, right? එතකොට අපි 2019 18 17 3 years recent 3 years fully discuss කරා. 2020 වලත් MCQ මොනවද තිබෙන්නේ නැති නිසා ඒකේ part 2 එකත් maybe if the time permits we can do. The rest of the things make sure you do and get back to me, right? If there's any unclear points. So always I'll try my best to provide you the whatever the clarifications, right? Correct. Let's come to 2017. දැන් බලන්න මේ questions වල තියෙන relationship එක. දැන් ඔයාටම පැහැදිලි නේද මේ දැන් තාම අවුරුදු 3-4ක විතරයි past papers කරේ. ඒතර ඔයාටම තේරෙනවා මොකක්ද repeatedly අහලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් බලන්න හොඳම example එක. අර දැන් මම මේකෙන් paper එක පැත්තට යනවා. මොලක් බලන්න 2017 වල question number 16 එකෙන් අහලා තියෙන්නේ function of organizing process. බලන්න. ඒතර 2017 paper එක කරලා ගියා නම් 2018 අවුරුද්ද ලියන්න බැරිද steps 4ක්? මොකද steps ටික දීලා ඒ ටික පිළිවෙල අහනවා. මේ 2017 වල. ඒතකොට ඒක කරලා ගියා කියන්නේ 2018 වල ආවනේ ඒකේ steps ටික, right? I don't think that you find difficult, right? හරි අපි බලමු question number year 2017 question number 16 මොකක්ද එන්නේ කියලා. Out of the above, which group contains only the task 11 to the function of organizing? Now organizing function එකේ task එක අහන්න. හරි අපි බලමු. Something like division of labor years, our work allocate කරද්දී නේද division of labor කරන්න පුළුවන්. එක small task එකකට allocate කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? එහෙනම් ඒ තියෙන්න අවශ්‍යයි. දැන් කෙලින්ම remove කරන්න පුළුවන් something like environmental analysis නෑ නේද? කොහෙවත් environmental analysis කරන්නේ planning process එකේ. ඒතර අනිවාර්යෙන් answer B තියෙනවා වැරදි. ඒවා කෙලින්ම අයින් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? ඒ වගේම communication කියලා අපි කොහෙවත් ඉගෙනගෙන නැහැ. communication එකත් වැරදි. G එන්නේත් නැහැ. එහෙනම් මේකත් අයින් කරන්න පුළුවන්. එයා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම එක්ක 4 නැත්නම් 5. එතකොට 4 5 common ඒවා බලන්න. AC common, ACE common. Right? එහෙනම් question එක differ වෙන්නේ එක්ක F එක්ක D. Right? එහෙනම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඔයා දන්නවා F ගන්න බෑනේ. F කියන්නේ E. Right? E එකේ මොනවද කියන්නේ? Not E, D. Establishment of objectives. Objectives को establish කරන්නේ planning process එකේදී. එහෙනම් D ගන්නත් බෑ. එහෙනම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම question number 16 option number 5 is the correct answer. Right? දැන් මේ වගේ incident එකකදී what do you call? එකපාරට නිකන් confuse වෙන්න එපා. අයියෝ මට මතක නෑ හරියට functions. But ඔයා දන්න දෙයින් ඔයාට පුළුවන් නොදන්න දෙයකට යන්න. Right? So ඔයා අනිවාර්යෙන් දන්න දේවල් දෙක තුනක් හරි තියෙයි. So try your level best from what you know, so then you can go to the next level. right 36 එකටත් අපි එමු 36A based on the way that authority is vested මොනවාද authority එක vested කියන authority එක allocate අර vested කියන technical word එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ authority එක given කියන එක තමයි අපි කියන්නේ බලය පවරනවා කියලා. ඒක තමයි මෙතන authority is vested. Without any doubt centralized and decentralized නේද centralized organization that සමහර countries උත් එහෙමනේ centralized කියලා ඔක්කොම එක්ක මොනාරි king කෙනෙක් හරි එක්කෙනෙක් dictator කෙනෙක් dictator what do you call this dictator කෙනෙක් හරි so something one person all decentralized something like North Korea centralized right maybe decentralized with the democratic system right so centralized and decentralized is the answer. Right. Managers should possess. දැන් බලන්න මේකම දැන් බලන්න එකම question එක තමයි පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස් කරලා අහන්නේ. ඊට පැහැදිලි corporate plans කිව්වනම් strategic plans නේද corporate plans කියන්නේ මුළු company එකටම හදන plan එක. දැන් marketing plan කියන්නේ marketing department එක. HR plan. දැන් lesson එකක් තියෙනවා නේද lesson number 18 business plan the preparation of business plan. දැන් මේ corporate plan කියන්නේ entire plan එක integrated plan. එහෙනම් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම conceptual skills තමයි ඕන වෙන්නේ conceptual skills. And they should process final accounts එතකොට accounting standard double entries ledger accounts මේ ඔක්කොම අපි කියන්නේ technical skills එකක් කියලා. technical skill. දැන් ඉතින් ආයිත් අහනවා same questions නේද? ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි එකම question එක මේ ආයිත් අහනවා මොනවාද oriented මොනවාද එන more concern with the production එක කලින් එකපාරක් තිබුණේ මේ production කියන එක තමයි blank එකට එන්න විදිහට හදලා තිබි question එක. ඔයාලට මතක නැහැ. අද ඒක අනිත් පැත්ත. එහෙනම් මොනවාද task oriented leadership right? task oriented කියන්නත් පුළුවන් නැත්නම් employee oriented product oriented whatever right task oriented sorry task නැත්නම් product oriented නැත්නම් job oriented task oriented product oriented job oriented මේ ඔක්කොම එකයි and employee oriented leadership is concerned with how do they think employees එහෙම නැත්නම් humans කියලා ගන්නත් පුළුවන් right එහෙනම් 2017 වල නම් ඔයාගේ මෙතන තියෙන 2 marks මෙතන 5 marks මෙතන එකයිනේ එතකොට මෙතන අහලා තිනා part 1 වල 5 marks අපි බලමු part 2 එකත් අපිට complete කරන්න පුළුවන් right ගොඩාක් කාලා තියෙනවා නේද part 2 එකේදී ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි කෙලින්ම 20 marks allocated to management right 20 marks මම හිතන්නේ 40 marks වෙලාද එතන right question number 6 එකත් fully අහලා තියෙන management parts වලින්ද yes නේද ඒකට සෑහෙන questions වලින් අහලා තියෙන තනිකරම management but let me check the 2017 paper මට mistake එකක් වෙලක් දන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය questions දෙකක් right give me 1 second නෑ නේද ඇත්තටම මේ right ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි 20 එතන මෙතන 20 marks තියෙනවා මම හිතන්නේ මෙහෙමනම් ආපහු හරි කියලා right මෙතන මේක නැහැ but rest of the things from management right මේ ඔක්කොම management ඒතකොට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් 36ක් මෙතන 36ක වගේ questions marks අහලා තියෙනවා but we can see a lot of things but I don't think that you receive questions like this right අපි බලමු මොනවද කියන්නේ Peter Drucker has viewed management as doing right things in the right way mention two management elements included this idea and I think without any doubt effectiveness and efficiency කියන concept එක අපිට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ගන්න පුළුවන් doing the right things කියන concept එකත් එක්ක අපි කතා කරන්නේ this set of part right efficiency and effectiveness so just 2 marks for that name 4 sub roles in decision making role describe Henry Mintzberg බලන්න ආපහු ඔයාලා sub roles ගැන මම හිතන්නේ repeatedly අහලා තිබ්බ හැම එකේම right එතනින් ඔයාලට just 4ක් ලියන්න තියෙන්නේ decision making role කියන එකට එන අර ඔක්කොම ලියන්නත් බෑ entrepreneur resource allocator negotiator disturbance handler last 4 තමයි ලියන්න වෙන්නේ right no doubt mention 2 facts that determine the span of control right nature of the task right maybe organization policy right maybe the skills of the leader then එයාට ගොඩක් manage කරන්න බැරි නම් දීලා වැඩකුත් නැහැ සමහර අය very good at managing people right so we can see that fact so make sure that you record right? Mention 2 facts that is reflected in a pyramid-shaped organizational structure in the firm. Pyramid-shaped organizational structure. මොකක්ද මේ? ආවට බැලුවොත් මෙන්න මෙතන pyramid shape එකට ගියොත් organization structure එක අපි මේ ගැන කතා කරලා තිනා top levels අය අඩුයි. දැන් CEOs ලා 10ක් ඉන්නේ නැහනේ. හැබැයි සමහර assistant managers ලා 10ක් ඉන්න පුළුවන්. සමහර head of departments ලා 5ක් ඉන්න පුළුවන් CEOs ලා 5ක් නැහැ. Something like this. You can see very few members right top management again few members and different management levels පෙන්නනවා authority එක එන්න උඩට යද්දි වැඩි and need different set of skills මේ පල්ලෙහා pyramid එකේ ඉන්න අයට ඕන skills නෙමෙයි උඩ අයට ඕනේ right so that what we have this ඔය පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස් කළා තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රශ්නය අහලා තියෙන්නේ briefly describe 4 basic characteristics of objectives of a firm right order කෙලින්ම ලියන්න smart concept එක නේද smart අපි දානවා specific measurable achievable realistic time bound කියන එක නේද මේ හතරෙන් smart what are the steps of a rational decision making process ඒකත් අපි කතා කරා steps ටික ලියන්න පුළුවන් no doubt right mention 2 elements in the mission statement එකට නේද markets තියෙන්න පුළුවන් market එක ගැන කියනවා customer base එක ඒකේ ස්ටාෆ් එක ගැන කියන්න පුළුවන් ස්ටාෆ් ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක ගැන කියන්න පුළුවන් right four practical issues that can be seen in the planning process මේ අපි කිව්ව අර over plan කරන්න යනවා සමහරලාට නේද සමහරු planning things that you know planning based on ඉක්කර දැන් ඊදවස්වල කියනනේ අර covid data නේද data වැරදි කියලා එහෙනම් ඉතින් එතන ඒකවල planning කරන්න බෑ because when you don't have the up to date or correct data you know the decisions the plans that you made on the incorrect data would be end up with incorrect unsuccessful decisions or situations so there are a lot of practical issues right so something like this top managers of an organization should possess conceptual skills more than other levels මේක ඉතින් ආපහු අපි කතා කරා නේද ඒගොල්ලන්ට corporate plans හදන්න වෙනවා strategic decisions ඊට පස්සේ policy development මේ ඔක්කොටම ඕන වෙන්නේ technical නෙමෙයි conceptual skills right no doubt with that briefly describe four possible weaknesses in organizing දැන් ඉතින් අර process එක මතකයි නා right identification of work allocate එහෙනම් not properly identifying the task not properly diversifying the the labor or not properly given the delegation or the authority or you're not coordinating well right or maybe there's no unity of command no chain of command span of control is unsuccessful අර organizing part එකේ තියෙන concepts ගැන one by one කියන්න පුළුවන් ඒකේ possible weaknesses naming four sources that a manager gets power that are other than the legitimate right now දන්නා අපි අර නේද ටිකෙත් වෙන other than the legitimate what expert power එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් what post එකෙන් හම්බෙන legitimate power හැබැයි expert power හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ position එකකින් expert power maybe the reward power right reward power maybe the information power right or maybe causative power right personality power referent power අපි got a celebrity කෙනෙක් දිලා referent power එකක් something like this apart from the legitimate power right two similarities between democratic leadership and laissez-faire leadership what are the similarities democratic කියන්නේ you give a chance to make decisions right ඒක පැහැදිලිනේ laissez-faire කියන්නේ full freedom එක දෙනවා කියන right what do you think you get the support right the cooperation from the subordinates you give the freedom to make decisions and you trust that laissez-faire you fully trust your subordinate that's why you let them do right laissez-faire කියන්නේ let them do කියන French meaning එක තමයි laissez-faire let them do right? So there are similarities especially about the trust right can say about the right here right trust freedom of choice or freedom of decisions right four methods that an organization can use to motivate the flow level can have a ground level employees la ඉතින් ඕනම employee කෙනෙක් විදිහ motivate කරන්න පුළුවන් salary bonus giving foreign trips organizing training programs welfare facilities health housing food uniforms right appreciations rewards award ceremonies in this are financial non financial මේ දෙකෙන්ම motivate කරන්න පුළුවන් right just write exam මේක ඇත්තම lazy ගොඩක් ආව තිබ්බට you have to just write mention two advantages and two disadvantages of informal communication informal right දැන් සමහරලාට දැන් මේ දවස්වල කෙනෙක් කියන්න පුළුවන් රට lockdown කරන Monday ඉඳලා හැබැයි තාම formally කියලා නෑ අන්න informal හැබැයි ඒක correct වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් incorrect වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් right So likewise, maybe you easy to obtain. Right? Easy to obtain. Maybe with the less cost that you can obtain, right? Less cost take obtain. But the disadvantage point of it, maybe sometimes it could be false. The වැරදි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Samaට informal එකේ false information. Maybe difficult to control, right? For informal එනවා ඉවරයක් නැහැ, right? Difficult to control. Maybe it could damage the reputation of the organization, right? So those are the set of things that we can identify. Right, two types of information that is communicated from top management to lower, and two types of information lower to top. What do you think about? Right, lower to top in pulang, top to lower in pulang. Correct. Right, now you see. Then top managers can decisions in udina palle in a managerial decisions. Egulange plans. Right, maybe the authority, right? So everything, maybe appreciation. The appreciate karana example like a lower level employee කෙනෙක් ගිහලා CEO අයන උඩ ඉඳන් පල්ලෙහාට එන එක. පල්ලෙහාට උඩ bottom to top ගත්තොත් maybe complaints, employee conflicts, right? Maybe suggestions, right? So everything comes under this one, right? And I'll take somewhere here. Top to bottom ගත්තොත් ගොඩක් වෙලාට managerial decisions, managerial plans, right? Admin appreciations, right? Admiring appreciations, everything. And bottom to top ගොඩක් වෙලාට යන suggestions, conflicts, right? Suggestions, conflicts. Complaints, right? Those are the set of things. Question number 5, guys, it's not applicable to this part. Make a okay. Next lesson එක අපි ඊළඟ දවසේ කතා කරන operation management, right? Operations management part එකේ තියෙන එක. Question number 5, right? Right, so with that we fully discussed recent 3 years, but make sure my autumn idea එකක් කියන මොනවද අහන්නේ repeatedly, important key areas මොනවද ඔයා ගොඩක්ම 100% confidence වෙන්න ඕනේ theoretical පැත්තේ. So please go through 2016, at least 2015 වලටවත් කරන්න. 2016, 15. There are 5 years, right? So then only you can face, in the successful manner. Right, guys. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you with the next week with a new lesson.